and we'll be requesting you to help us to help you in whatever way possible. Yesterday, Honorable Chief Minister said something which I'll repeat before I end. If you take half step, we'll take 3 steps, he said. That means it is just he's quantifying that if you do one thing, we'll do 6 things. I'm sure our Chief Secretary will be following it up and making sure that we'll work 6 times more than what we will be doing. So I am thankful for everyone for such a huge gathering and accepting our invitation and being here. Now I will request one small audio video to be shown, and that will set the context, then we'll go with the speakers. Thank you so much. Vande Utkala Janani. Jai Hind.
Welcome to Odisha, the maritime gateway to eastern India. With 480 kilometers of coastline, Odisha is strategically positioned as a key location for port sector development in India. Under the visionary leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, our thriving ports, Paradip, Dhamra and Gopalpur are the pillars of India's maritime economy. Handling around 200 MMTPA of cargo annually, these ports connect India to global markets with unmatched efficiency and speed, while working towards the goal of a Viksit Bharat by 2047. Under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Shri Mohan Charan Maji, for Viksit Odisha focus on developing non-major ports, cruise terminals, multi-purpose harbours, shipbuilding facilities, and container terminals. Additionally, port-led industrial cluster with captive jetties, 6 national waterways traverse Odisha, providing a sustainable, cost-effective alternative for cargo movement. Odisha is actively developing its inland water transport (IWT) sector to integrate rivers with industrial hubs and ports. Majoring industries across the Odisha and its neighboring states rely deeply on the maritime infrastructure for their growth and sustainability. In Odisha, we believe in empowering investors. Our pro-business policies such as the Odisha Port Policy 2022, Industrial Policy Resolution, IPR 2022, and Logistic Policy 2022, along with a single window clearance system, attractive financial incentives, and streamlined approvals. Under the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, Odisha has seen transformative infrastructure developments. Key projects include improved connectivity from the KPK region, better access to rice-producing areas in western and southern Odisha, and enhanced connections for power plants in southern India. The state's aviation sector is also on the rise with 14 government airports, 7 private ones, and the Biman initiative aimed at modernizing infrastructure. Major projects like the Sri Jagannath International Airport, new regional airstrips, and expanded flight routes will boost regional connectivity and promote sustainability. Road transportation contributes 60% to total the transport GVA of the state. Currently, there are 49 ongoing projects by the National Highways Authority of India, covering 1,204 kilometers, of which 771 kilometers is completed. The state is planning to set up the Odisha Economic Corridor, an extension of the Visakhapatnam-Chennai Industrial Corridor along eastern Odisha. Odisha is now a key hub for economic growth and connectivity. Invest in Odisha, invest in the future, together, saving towards prosperity and global success.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सभी का. थैंक यू सो मच मैम. नेक्स्ट स्पीकर को बुलाने से पहले आज की सभा में हमारे सम्मानित अतिथि के रूप में जिन्होंने अपनी उपस्थिति जाहिर की है, उनका स्वागत करना चाहेंगे पूरे विभाग की तरफ से. फ्लावर बुके देके एक बार जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करना चाहेंगे श्री मनोज आहूजा सर, IAS चीफ सेक्रेटरी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ओडिशा. स्वागत है सर आपका. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन. इसके बाद ही हम सभी के उद्देश्य में अपना अभिभाषण रखने के लिए आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगी डाइस पे जोरदार तालियों के साथ मिस्टर शुभ्रो त्रिपाठी जी, प्रेसिडेंट बिजनेस डेवलपमेंट, ईस्ट अदानी पोर्ट्स एंड SEZ। स्वागत है सर का।
Honorable Minister Shri Bhubaneshwar Jena ji, respected Chief Secretary Shri Manoj Ahuja ji, Principal Secretary Madam Srimati Usha Padhi ji, my co-panelists, my younger brothers Rinkesh from the IITS fraternity like me, Harnath also from the IITS fraternity like me, as well as I. Aka ma boy panogua thoi masakara dharma tomoro panogua tomoro masaka dharma moro. नौ वाणिज्य परंपरा ओडिशा रे पुनरुद्धार करिवा पाई जो सब प्रतिक्रिया एवं चेष्टा ओडिशा सरकार आरंभ करिसंती मु सर्वप्रथमे माननीय मंत्री को अशेष अशेष धन्यवाद व्यक्तिगत रूप रे गोटे ओडिया हिसाब रे एवं समस्त तरफ देवा चाहूँ सर बहुत धन्यवाद इट इज नॉट इनसिडेंटल दैट yesterday the tone for the setting for this conference was set by Honorable Prime Minister when he said two things. When he said that the Honorable President of Indonesia said that he has a DNA from Odisha, and he mentioned about Bali Jatra. Now, is that not proof enough of where stands Odisha on the maritime sector? And for those who do not know and who are uninitiated, we had the President of Singapore visiting Odisha and inking a few MOUs, of which the maritime sector convergence between a state which is considered to be the influx point between East and the West, Singapore and Odisha. It's not incidental that Singapore, Honorable Minister would also know, as Chief Secretary would know, I've had discussion with Madam, that Stanford Raffles, like Clive came to India and started the British India Company, Stanford Raffles, and those of you who visited Singapore would know, the Raffles Center and what Raffles is, was who migrated from the shores of erstwhile Utkal Kalinga, went on to establish Singapore, and he writes in his book, which is quoted in the first book that is written in English from the British Odisha by H.H. Hunter, that Stanford Raffles comments that it is the maritime history of Odisha, Utkal Kalinga, the Kalinga Sahasikas as they were, who established what is today Singapore. I think that is the curtain raiser for what I'm going to speak in the next 5 minutes. I will just tell you what my vision, and I will request Honorable Minister's attention. Chief Secretary, sir, thank you so much for believing that there is actually a resurgence of the maritime sector. And today, if there is one sector which can change the way Odisha would change, and it is changing, it is port and port-led industrialization, including port-led logistics. Can I just proceed, please? I want the audience to quickly appreciate as to what does India look like. I'm setting it in context, borrowing from Madam, where she has got a beautiful context setting for what the session is today. Just look at it, the maritime map of India, and where does Odisha stand, and look at the various states and the coastline, 7,517 continuous coastline. And if you look at what the major ports are, 12 of them, 2 added at Vadhavan and Galathea Bay, which is again a vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, that we have a transshipment point in deep Southeast Asia, which is Galathea Bay, and which will be developing that. Just look at how the Indian maritime map looks like. Next, please. When I then divide it into what the port setting is, the ports in India, the major and the non-major ports. Now, the reason why I'm talking about why it is a major port and why. For long, we have been captive to the idea that major ports would lead. Indeed, major ports have been, they have started in a way the relay, and it is now for the PPP and the non-major ports to work together and unleash the maritime potential that exists in India, and especially in the state of Odisha. So the essence of the non-major ports is a PPP model, and I will thank Honorable Minister for giving this opportunity. And you can see that how Dhamra, which started as very hesitantly in 2014, has broken into the first 10 in terms of cargo handling in India, and very soon, along with Paradip, when I served, we were 9 among the major ports under the leadership of my friend Harnath. Today, Paradip last year, and I give him a big hand, was the first major port on the major ports. But also the fact that Mundra, at nearly 200 million, gives you an index what private initiative can bring to the country through PPP. And what is it that we must do on the state of Odisha, especially among the various ports, to unleash again this potential of the PPP? Go ahead, please. Now, have a quick look and you will understand as to why I'm prescribing what I'm saying. When you look at 1981, and it is considered at the turn of what was at the time a very stressed economy, we were all growing up, we were in school, we were wondering as to where India is going, and we looked at the major ports with a lot of awe. As a child, I used to go to Paradip, wash my hands on the ocean and look at the big ships and wonder what was then a Panamax or maybe a baby Panamax. Today, just imagine the entire ports of India and especially Paradip and Dhamra are enabled to handle the largest ships of the world, which are called the Cape size, which have a capacity to handle about 1,80,000. And we in Dhamra handled the first vessel, the largest in India in 2014 at 1,92,000 tons of coal. Imagine, what does that mean? Which means that today, Dhamra, and it brings down the cost and efficiency, one ship is equal to about 5 ships that were being handled earlier. Just look as to how the country has developed. Come 2000, and then the first wave of PPP was unleashed. Odisha was one of the initial. Dhamra was the first PPP in the country to be taken up. For various reasons, we took a little hesitant start because we Odiyas sometimes believe that टिके आस्ते करी काम कले भलो हबो किंतु जेतेबेले आमे मन दृढ़ करदु काम करिबाकू निष्पत्ति नै जाऊ आमको अटकाइबा सहज नुह काइना आमे आम रक्त रे गरम गरम कलिंगा साहसिका रक्त बहुची आम भितरे तेणु आमे टिके समय नेला आम पई 2010 रे आरंभ होला तळे आपण देखंतु 2024 सुधा जेतेबेले धामरा गोपालपुर एवं सुवर्णरेखा हे जीवो अस्तरंग मैडम कहिले बाहुदा मुहाणो ऑनरेबल चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर इज वेरी कीन तांको निजो कॉन्स्टिट्युएंसी तांको निजो घर पाखरे सॉल्ट पैन लैंड को देकरी पालूर एवं बाहुदा मु जेते समय तांग संगे कथा हेची आपण पालूर और बाहुदा को एक स्वप्नर पोर्ट करइबे से now when you look at it as to how it starts inflecting now today the division between the major and the non major ports is nearly 50% and when we end 2025 you will see that the non major ports are as much as the major ports in India and it is not coincidental that today when we look at 1500 million tons of cargo 1.5 billion that coincides as to how much the Indian Railway is also handling. Next, please. I give a division of where these states are. When you look at a composite cargo of India, and you see that Odisha handles, along with Paradip, nearly 13%, which means we are with a neighbor Andhra. When you look at Gujarat, and just 2 ports, and I had in all humility, I had the privilege of handling these 2 ports, both Mundra and Kandla when we were there. Now, one Mundra and Kandla together in a space of less than 50 kilometers are handling close to 350 million tons. Nearly 20% of India's cargo gets into the space. What is it that we must do in Odisha to recreate such an ecosystem, an enabling policy environment, an environment that will get us into the league of handling nearly 25% of India's cargo? That I believe is the potential for Odisha, which 25%. So from 13 to 25 is a journey which we will have to take by good policy initiatives and by handholding of the government and we walking it together. When you look at the non-major ports, then you will see that Odisha's share is a little better, 16%, and that is in essence the story of what PPP can do and what Dhamra, Gopalpur, upcoming Astarang, Suvarnarekha, which we are waiting to happen, and what with Palur coming in, what with Bahuda coming in, the future waiting for us, 25% of India's cargo. Next, please, quickly. A very quick glance so that you know exactly as to where we are. The public-private participation, the maritime vision, the reforms in the major port authority, national monetization pipeline so that everything is easily and well transitioned from a major public sector to a thriving private sector, and examples of Paradip port where nearly most of the berths are getting landlord model. The only port in India which is entirely landlord today is JNPT. I believe Paradip will be the next port on a landlord model. So this is what is expecting us. And the PM Gati Shakti logistics plan. I will speak 2 minutes on that. Next, please. Now, when you look as to what the PPP has done, it has given a viability gap funding. Madam, thank you so much for mentioning viability gap. I have a point on that. When you look at viability gap funding, it is not restricted to merely having a passenger riding to Dubai or a container. Perhaps some of the common infrastructure, and that is what Wadwan is doing today. What is what Galthia Bay wants to do? What is it that in Odisha we must do to attract a sound, robust incentive scheme in PPP with a viability gap so that when Palur and Bahuda take off and we have an adjoining industrial park to that, we could sit and talk across as to how we can get it done together. In Dhamra, we are doing the industrial park, which will be with your assistance and Honorable Minister's assistance. So I believe economic corridors, the one like we have given from Gopalpur to Jaipur, and I'll speak on that. So quickly a look, the foreign direct investment which is encouraged into the private sector, into the ports, and the models which are coming, including a hybrid annuity model which is being established in Vadhuan, is the story for the future. Next, please, quickly. Now, the Sagarmala, which of course my colleagues from the major ports would speak, but I'm giving you a pan to tell you more than the Sagarmala, my points on that. I need a boost because a port does not stand in isolation. If you're looking at a port-led industrial development, a port does not stand in splendid isolation like most of you believe. It is, as Madam said, a hub or a cog in the multimodalism. If a port stands in isolation, it will get isolated. Next, please. I'll just tell you why I feel, along with the maritime vision that I'm saying, how do we then go from a significant, from 95% of India's cargo and 65% in terms of value, what is it that we must do to see that seaborne cargo spread out logistics through a national logistics Gati Shakti plan? The next one, please, is what we are looking at. Madam hinted. Now, today, India's competency in the international market, and especially the Purv Udaya vision that we are speaking of, that the East must lead, and it is not incidental that in the East, the entire sea facing, that means there are states which are minerally rich, which is Jharkhand, which is Chhattisgarh, but they lack a seafront, which is, if I go back to history, it's perhaps the ability of a navy, the ability of a thriving trade and commerce. And the theme in the Prabhasi Bharat, which Honorable EM spoke about, trade, technology, tourism. Trade has always distinguished India. So from if you look at AD and up to 1700, when India stand and the GDP was far higher before the British government came, it was trade which gave us surpluses. So along with trade, when you're looking at what is it that we must do in trade, we have to have a competitive landscape in trade. Now, to have a competitive landscape, we are today, as you can see, we have moved from 2010 from a figure of 47, we have now come to 38 by a proactive policies of which government of Odisha is also doing enough. What is it that we need to walk that extra mile so that our costs come down to less than 7-8% to make our products competitive? And when products go from east of India to the far east as a part of the ASEAN kind of vision, as a part of the Purvodaya vision, which Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha have been talking about, and the Honorable Minister has also told me, along with Purvodaya, how are you placing Odisha over there? This is the vision that we must get down cost to minus 10%. Our modes of transportation must be a combination of rail, inland water, road, little less. If you look at the little map, those advanced countries where costs are low, the rail transportation is nearly 50%. Unfortunately, in India, the rail transportation is hovering around 31-32%. We need to recreate that back to some 50% so that we become competitive, because rail has a distinct competitive advantage over roads. And of course, the other competitive advantage is through the waterways. Next, please. Having said that, what is it that I'm looking at? The integrated logistics, modern warehouses, expansion of roads as a particular circular road of Odisha, the railways, dedicated freight corridors, economic corridors, exclusive corridors. Speak of them. The private sector chief secretary was very kind enough to discuss, saying that the model that must come is a boost model, competitive bidding. Yes, sir. You please open up the sector for competitive bidding, just like the way NHI has done. Exclusive corridors from the mines to our ports, both Subarnarekha, Dhamra, Paradeep, Astarang. I have watched the growth of Paradeep, seeing cargo deserting from the shores of Odisha. When we speak of value addition in Odisha and we don't give logistics solution, cargo will find a route to go to adjoining states. Now, I'm not being parochial when I say our cargo deserves to be with us, because our cargo, like our value addition, deserves to be over here through exclusive corridors, because we'll be competitive, not because of a parochial vision. A vision which encompasses competitiveness, which encompasses being the best in class. To be the best in class, I need to have dedicated freight corridors, multimodal terminals, oil and gas pipelines, such of economic corridors, we speak of rail, road, transmission line, pipelines. Because when you talk of pipelines, you're all talking of LNG transportation. Madam spoke of a transition from fossil fuels to green. Today, we have a LNG terminal in Dhamra, and Kalinganagar will look to make green steel. 5 million ton, we are already going for an expansion of 10 million. How will this go? By pipelines. How will it get to Paradeep? By another pipeline. Then there is the LNG terminal coming up in Gopalpur through a combination of the PLL and Gopalpur port. Now distributing a clean fuel, before we go to green fuel, a clean fuel for our industries, our steel and aluminium plants, our power plants is the key. How does that happen? Through a vision, through the ports. Next please, quickly. Importance of building shipbuilding. For long, we knew that shipbuilding, and yesterday, sir, many congratulations to you. An MOU has been being inked for a shipbuilding facility. I think that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. The Honorable Minister, Chief Secretary, and Madam deserve a resounding clap for envisioning a mega shipbuilding. Today, earlier we used to send our tugs also for servicing to other ports. It's a pleasure. It is being done in Paradeep, and we'll be developing adjacent ports. So the point I'm trying to make is that Odisha needs to become a circular maritime economy. To be a circular maritime economy, port is just an initiator. It will then create a situation which will attract. So as you say, economists will say a circle of prosperity. It was Rostov who said, the Nobel economist who said, there's a circle of prosperity. And that circle of prosperity, along with the takeoff, has arrived in Odisha today. I will go very quickly as to why Palur and Bahuda adjoining with the salt pan land. And we will recreate this, what happened in the ports in south of India. Sir, in Chennai, in Kattupalli, in Krishnapatnam, because we are blessed with salt pan land, we are unleashing their industrial parks, just the vision that you have. So crude to chemical and a pharmaceutical sector which Odisha lacks. Today, the west of India, when you talk of pharmaceutical and you talk of the belt from South Gujarat, from Vapi to Bombay, nearly 70% of the GST collections of the country come out of the chemical and pharmaceutical sector. What is it we must do to get this ecosystem into Odisha? We need to develop Gopalpur, we need to develop, at Dhamra, and the downstreaming of the refinery at Paradeep. Then you will attract the entire chemical cluster. And along with the salt land at Bahuda, the MOU that we do with Jurong Chemical Park, I think that opens up a new wave of port-led industrialization. Very quickly, please. So I wanted to speak also about development at NW5. This is a dream project for the state of Odisha. It will mean that coal will be transported from the Brahmani Mahanadi coal fields into the ports of Paradeep and ports of Dhamra. When that happens, coal transportation, which India is dependent on Odisha, and for those of you who are uninitiated, India's energy security through coal is hugely dependent on Odisha. So to make that a virtuous cycle, transportation through rail and transportation through water, we have inked MOUs, Madam is aware of that. We need to now give it a push, and we will come in a PPP boost model to bid for that. I think you should open it up for bidding just after this. Very quickly, go ahead, please. The geographical advantage that we have, you are aware. I just wanted to place this. I will not speak about it. You're all aware of it. But contextually to speak, that the next wave of industrialization after steel is petrochemical and chemical, agricultural, and harnessing the natural resources along with woven with the port infrastructure. This is the fortuous and the cycle that I am hinting and speaking about. Next, please. Now, if you look the economic, and I'm drawn from the economic indicators of India, I have given you what the best states are with a desire that Odisha should walk up to be in the power capacity. Though we supply the entire coal to most of the country, our capacities are still low. They are adequate for us, but we have to match up to be the best. I would not like to be a part of a team which is not the best. And here, along with the leadership that you find of government of Odisha over here, with the Honorable Minister, with the respective Chief Secretary and Madam, I think we have the crackest, best team over here. Give them a hand as I say that India, Odisha will walk up to be the top in all these things that we are talking of. PPP projects, railway routes, and go ahead, please. Now, the chart of excellence for export, which is my underlying theme, if we have to transition as an economy from this traditional economy into a port-led export economy, India's share at 437 billion. Look at Odisha's composition. why is it that we still are suffering from having product and manufacturing goods? So when we go ahead from a primary production of steel into downstreaming of alumina, downstreaming of steel, and downstreaming of chemical industries, also logistics industries, it will mean that we will not be exporting iron ore, we will be exporting products made from iron ore. It's not incidental that some of the finest steel in the world, is made in the backyard of Odisha in Kalinganagar, and the steel vision of India to make 300 million, nearly 120 or 130 million will come from one singular place called Kalinganagar. Do you imagine what will mean? Today, we are producing about close to 25-30 million from there. Imagine in the next decade or less than that, this 30 million is going to become 120 million at just one place. What is going to happen? What forces it is going to unleash? What kind of transportation we require? What kind of dedicated corridors? What kind of ports? Deep, intensive, world-class ports. Therefore, the MOUs with Singapore, therefore the maritime vision. I'll just go ahead to tell you very quickly what is the path of connectivity. My last 2 minutes time. Now, what is the path of connectivity that I am looking at in this map? You are aware. Just go ahead. I want to speak on that. Just go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. Now look, for long, this is how the map of Odisha rail would look like. As I told you, ports don't stand in isolation. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. When I look at Gopalpur, and I drew this to Honorable Minister's attention, I spoke to Chief Secretary and I requested him. The line from Raipur to Vijayanagaram is a line of prosperity. It should also become a line of prosperity for South and West Odisha. To translate that into a line of prosperity, we need to do a connectivity between Gopalpur and Raigada. And I'm very happy Honorable Minister and Chief Secretary have agreed, as per Honorable Chief Minister's decision, that they will perhaps evaluate to give it on a boot model. So when you have an economic corridor, cargoes which today are going away from the port of Gopalpur will start coming to the port of Gopalpur, because you will become the least landed competitive port. This, along with the economic corridor to the north, the rail corridor to Astarang, the economic corridor to from Talcher to Paradeep, is the integrated composite vision for port and integrated logistics development. I will sign off because Madam has actually adequately cautioned me. I've gone beyond my time. Thank you so much. I get a little passionate when I speak of this. When it does happen, finally go ahead, please. Yeah. So just look as to what it will be due to the distances. A simple arithmetic that we have calculated. We deserve to get this cargo to Gopalpur port. And I'm sure next time we are holding a Make in Odisha, we will be announcing the official, the trains and the roads will be running from Gopalpur, the bauxite-rich lands of undivided Koraput district, into the ports of Gopalpur. The final vision, as it looks, a prosperous Odisha, Samruddha Odisha, jahar swapna ame onek din dekhuchu, mu chuate bulu swapna dekhuchi, mu sei bisare कहली जदि आम भितर समस्त विषय छिटकाटे कलिंगा साहसिकार रक्त अच्छी पुनरुद्धार करने ये विजन जहाँ को मैं कहूँ नौ वाणिज्यर पुनरुद्धार नौ वाणिज्य सहित आम जो शिल्प और नौ वाणिज्य कथा कहबू गोटे विकसित समृद्ध विकसित 2036 रे स्वप्न देखी ओडिशा गठन करूँ 1936 रे 2036 स्वप्न हूँ विकसित ओडिशा बंदर मालिन ओडिशा समृद्ध ओडिशा एवं शिल्प बंदर सहित एकाठी वंदे उत्कल जननी जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर सर बहुमूल्य अभिभाषण निहाती भाव में आगामी दिन में आम समस्त गोटे सुंदर सुजोग आनीदेव सुवर्ण सुजोग आनीदेव गोटे सुंदर ओडिशा गढ़ गोटे सुंदर भारत गढ़ यह आमर आशा पुणी थे अनुरोध करी गोटे जोरदार करताली पाई। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। राइट आफ्टर दैट आई वुड लाइक टू रिक्वेस्ट फॉर a special address Mr. P.L. Hanadji, IRT, as Chairman by the Port Authorities. Please welcome.
Honorable Minister Sri Vibhuti Bhushan Jinaji, so Honorable Chief Secretary Sri Manoj Ahuja ji, Madam Musha Padi ji, my co-panelists Sri Rinkesh Rai and Sri Subrata Tripathi ji, and erudite guests of the dais. I attended a number of conferences with Subrata Tripathi ji. Last 6 months, I think 3-4 conferences I attended. Unfortunately, I get always chance to speak after him. So it is very difficult, neither it is very difficult not only to match his wisdom, but also his pitch also. So it is very difficult for the person who is speaking after Subrata Tripathi ji. So I will try. So as you know that the ships carry 90% of the cargo the world trades. That's why the maritime sector forms the cornerstone of economic development of any country. Now the global maritime industry is arguably passing a very, very transformative and challenging phase till date. On one hand, there is emphasis on the climate conscious sailing, net zero targets, IMO new regulations, eco-friendly ports, and investments on the alternate fuels, retrofitting. These require a huge technological innovations and massive investments. While this is on the one side, on the other side, the forecast of economic slowdown, the uncertainty of the global trade is also causing concern for the maritime sector. The UNCTAD has forecasted the maritime global trade annual growth rate will be around 2 to 2.1% from 23 to 27, 5 years time. As we navigate through these multiple maritime complexities, so Indian economic growth story is a testament for the resilience and ambition. Indian port sector has been contributing the economic development of the country in a big way by reducing the logistic costs of the country and also acting as a hubs for investments and innovation. So, Honorable Prime Minister of the country in the Global Maritime India Summit at Mumbai last year has announced the Indian maritime port capacity from the existing level of 2.6 billion tons, it will go up to 10 billion tons by 2047 to cater the huge EXIM and coastal shipping cargo which will be offered by the trade by 2047. The Odisha, state of Odisha is also very rich in not only in minerals but also highly industrialized state. It is known for the proactive leadership, the responsive bureaucracy, and the ambitious industry players and skilled workforce. With this kind of all characters which are available in the Odisha, so there is no doubt that the state of Odisha is expected to become a maritime powerhouse. It is a maritime powerhouse in making. Now the the Odisha coastline, which is normally, now the entire Indian coastline has been remeasured. In 23-24, 1970 is 7,500 kilometers. Now it has gone up to 11,098 kilometers. Physically it has not increased, but the measurement has been corrected scientifically by the National Maritime Security Coordinator. As per that, from 480 kilometers, the Odisha coastline is now 574 kilometers. It is a huge coastline. In terms of coastline percentage, it contributes to only 5% of the total coastline of the country. But still, last year, 23-24, the total cargo which is handled, out of the total cargo handled at the Indian ports, the state of Odisha handled 13%. That's huge. With 5% coastline, it could handle 13% of the total cargo handled at the ports. It is kudos to the Odisha, state of Odisha and the ports here. Now I will just outline some of the initiatives that are being taken up by Paradeep, as the time is less. So one is, as per the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, the port of Paradeep is also trying to expand substantially. At present it is a 289 million ton capacity. It is number one major port in terms of rated capacity as well as cargo handling. From 289 million tons, within a couple of years we will cross 300 million tons, and by 2030 we will be touching 400, and we will be the first port in India, major port in India, to touch 500 million tons by 2047. So as we expand the capacity, why is the vessels are not supposed to wait for the berths? The berth should wait for the vessel so that ultimately the moment it is ready, within an hour the vessel should berth. That's why the modernization, capacity augmentation is the core of agenda of the Paradeep. Apart from that, as our Subhito Tripathi have told, that draft is the most important in ports because the bigger vessels will come and the economies of scales will operate. And we are deepening in a span of 1 year. The entire Paradeep port will get enabled to handle the super cape vessels with 18.5 meter draft. That means a vessel with 2.5 lakh tons of cargo can come to Paradeep port against the present 1.5 lakh tons. So a huge jump, and the cost will come down by $10 to $12 per ton, which is a huge important thing. So other 2-3 issues, just I want to know, the ports cannot operate isolation. So they have to be connected to the hinterland. The port connectivity is the vital for the functioning of the port as well as the economy of the state. Under Gati Shakti, PM's Gati Shakti program, 22 rail projects and 6 road projects had already been flagged under Gati Shakti, out of which 8 have been completed, 9 are under implementation, rest are under development. Of course, the NW5 project has already been briefed by my earlier speaker. I would not touch that. So the port connectivity is also being augmented parallelly, which is very, very important. Now the port's capacity is huge, but we are unable to operate at that capacity because the connectivity is the constraint. That becomes a chicken neck. And third important thing which I will say is Paradeep port, which was traditionally dependent on only 3 cargo, there is the crude, coal and iron ore. Now, so we want to diversify our the cargo basket in a big way. And I must thank the Honorable Chief Secretary and the Government of Odisha for giving us the VGF to the promotion of container traffic at Paradeep port. And in fact, no other maritime state in the country has given the kind of VGF which was given by the state of Odisha. So for every call to ignite the ecosystem, for every call, they are giving about $200 if the minimum 250 slots are not filled in every call. So the important container liner this financial year, for the first time in the history of Paradeep port, we started the EXIM traffic to Colombo as well as the port clans. And another 2-3 things I would like to mention is the green hydrogen. Out of the 3 green hydrogen hubs which have been declared by the Government of India, Paradeep is also one of them. And we are developing an exclusive and dedicated and green hydrogen, green ammonia handling berth with 5 million ton capacity. And we will be able to allow bunkering and export of the green hydrogen future, which is the future fuel. And the most important thing is the maritime. Now at present, the shipbuilding and ship repair is the talk of the time. So why the shipbuilding is very important is, in India, the total fleet, Indian ownership flagged vessels, almost about the age of the vessel is about 20 years. 45% of the Indian flagged vessels already crossed 45 years, already crossed 20 years. And 61% crossed 15 years. That means another 4 or 5 years, these 61% we have to be scrapped and new vessels have to be replaced. And think of the other additional vessels which you require to carry the additional cargo which is offered by the trade. So huge requirement of the new ships with Indian flag is necessary, especially for coastal shipping. So knowing that this market is a 150 billion global market is available. In the entire globe, 64 gross million tons of ships is produced per annum. Capacity is available. The Indian capacity is only 0.1 out of the 64 gross million tons. So there is a huge requirement in the maritime vision which is unveiled by the Government of India. We wanted to go up to 0.6 million tons, gross million ton by 2030 and 4.5 by 2047. For that, 4 different areas have been identified by the Government of India. One is the Paradeep, and second is the Cochin, and third is the Gujarat Vadinath, and fourth is in Tamil Nadu. Sorry, in Andhra Pradesh, Doggarajapatnam. These are the 4 areas which have been identified. And why the shipbuilding is important is shipbuilding promotes huge investments, ancillary investments, and it will provide a massive employment opportunities. The employment multiplier for the shipbuilding is 6.4x. It means if the core employment is 1 job, by 6.4 additional jobs will be created through ancillary industries. So huge potential is there, and we are working with the Government of Odisha, and we have made a presentation to Honorable Chief Secretary also we are going to present. So in the north of the Mahanadi, in the Kendrapara district, we would like to work together and create a huge shipbuilding industry, which will not only required for the Indian maritime sector, but also it will add a lot of economic development of the area of that place. And the last thing I would like to mention is now the Paradeep is trying to go global for investments, just good for information. Because now from Russia we import crude oil, coal and a lot of fertilizers. Now the traditional route which comes from Russia, it comes from via Europe. It comes from via Europe, Suez Canal, Red Sea, it comes to Mumbai. If it has come to Paradeep, again it has to come back all the way to Colombo, it has to come to Paradeep. It's a huge distance is there, which is almost about 10,000 kilometer nautical miles it has to transport. And it takes about 50 days to come from Russia to Paradeep. Suppose if the eastern part of Russia, there some ports are there, Vladivostok, Vashnoy, these ports, if you can operationalize them, the eastern maritime corridor is only 24 hours. So it is almost about 50% of the transit time will be reduced, the cost will be reduced by almost about 40%. So that's why we are, but the most problem is the eastern Russian ports are low after ports, less automation, so they will not be able to handle the poor connectivity, winter is huge. So that's why we are trying to invest our additional funds, and in one terminal with a big draft of 18 meters, and then a fully automated terminal which can handle our coal, imported coal, which is required for the steel industry in Odisha. This will reduce the logistic cost of import of coking coal substantially to the steel industry of the Odisha. So that will have this. We are trying to think over it and work on that. With these words, I will just sign off because the time is not there. And I must thank the government of Odisha for giving this opportunity to share the vision of the Paradeep in specificity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Right after that, would like to take this opportunity to welcome here for a keynote address Mr. Rinkesh Roy, sir, Chairman CII National Committee on Ports and Shipping and Joint MD and CEO JSW Infra. Please welcome.
I just want to convey my sincere thanks to him because there is some death in the family, but still he has kept his commitment and he has come here to be part of this. We are very, very thankful to you. Thank you.
श्रीजुक्त विभूतिभूषण जेना माननीय मंत्री ओडिशा सरकार, श्रीजुक्त मनोज कुमार आहूजा माननीय चीफ सेक्रेटरी ओडिशा सरकार, श्री PL हरनाथ माननीय चेयरमैन पारादीप पोर्ट अथॉरिटी, श्रीजुक्त सुब्रत त्रिपाठी अदानी प्रेसिडेंट अदानी पोर्ट, और मैडम उषा पाड़ी प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी कॉमर्स एंड ट्रांसपोर्ट, लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन आपण समस्त को मोर नमस्कार। Odisha has a long history and a rich maritime tradition. The Bali Jatra festival is a testimony to this tradition of Sadhavas traveling to Borneo and other countries in Southeast Asia. The foundation of Paradeep Port in 1963 and its operationalization in 1966, and then the subsequent coming up of Gopalpur and Dhamra ports has revived that maritime legacy. If you look at the last 5 years, the growth in the Odisha cargo has been with an annualized rate of 9%, whereas the India growth has been more or less at 4%. So we in Odisha have been doubling that of the growth of ports in India. The future of ports, if we take a look at it, can be summed up in 4 key words: mega. So the movement is towards mega ports. So what does mega stand for? M stands for a good market, or what we call the hinterland. In the context of Odisha and the context of the ports that we see in Odisha, there are 15 identified port sites in India, in Odisha, out of which 3 are operationalized 3 are under MOUs or concessions, and another 9 are yet to be operationalized. So the potential for development is immense. Again, if you look at that cluster of ports, the biggest cluster is between Paradeep and Dhamra. If I draw a line of that 100 kilometers and take it up north towards Jharsuguda and Brajrajnagar and Raurkela, this would be possibly the most industrialized area in the country. You name it, you have it here. You have fertilizer plants, you have an oil refinery, you have LNG terminals, you have steel plants, you have aluminium plants, you have coal mines, you have iron ore mines, you have chromite mines, you name it, everything is here. And it's this kind of corridor development that we should be looking at. The next corridor that can come up for development is the North Odisha corridor. That is between Balasore and Bhadrak. If again we look at that hinterland, we need not stop at Odisha, we need to look at it at Jharkhand. So here my request would be that if we develop these corridors and even the south corridor, if you again sir, look at the ports there, near Gopalpur you have a cluster of 3 ports. Again you draw a straight line up, you will go into Rayagada and Raipur. So we need to look beyond our state and serve as the magnet for pulling cargo from the inland states, that is Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and South MP. This is where our criticality comes in. How do we develop? Currently, the dedicated freight corridors are located on a east-west axis, and they do not look at a very focused way of connecting mines to ports. So the request would be to set up dedicated freight corridors in these areas so that you get the lowest logistics cost coming into the ports. And this corridor, you should have expressways as was done earlier in the 1960s. One of the first expressways in India came up from Sukinda mines to Paradeep port. There were no surface crossings. This concept we need to develop, articulate, and get these inland states to be a partner with us in this port development. So that is the first point I wanted to state, was about mega. That is the market, the hinterland that we are looking at. The second one is about environment. Most of these areas, I think Odisha features 2 of the most polluted areas in the country. One is Paradeep, one is the Ape Valley area. So here a lot of focused attention has to go into cleaning up the environment. So what can we do and what have we done? At JSW Infra, we have come up with India's first dry bulk covered storage sheds. They are nowhere present in India. This we have at Dharamtar port, this we have at Jaigarh port. Covered shed, the reclaimer stackers work inside it. There's no dust emission. So these are steps, I think, where we can contribute a lot. Number 2 is getting green energy in. Number 3 is looking at recycling of water. I think Paradeep port has done a fabulous job in recycling of water. So these are certain measures where we have to consciously look at environment issues. And let me tell you, having a covered shed made for a lot of economic sense. Number 1, there was no sticky cargo. The efficiency of the machines increased dramatically. And number 3, there was no loss of cargo for the customer. So there was a lot of economic sense in developing these covered sheds. So that takes care of the E part in the mega term. Then we come to G. This is called giant. So whatever we build, it has to be on a gigantic scale. You can't look at very small things and work here. So you have to build a port which is Cape compliant. As Mr. Tripathi said, you have to look at carrying 200,000 tons of coal in one ship. And similarly, the machineries have to be huge, totally mechanized, covered sheds. All this requires a lot of investment. So here, my request would be, sir, if we look at the port development in Odisha, we suffer from one big problem. The natural contours in which you can get a cape-sized ship is pretty far off. So generally, dredging, if you can do in an area of 11, 12 kilometers, it's manageable. But if you are to do at 20, 30 kilometers away, then you can't really economically make a Cape compliant port. So here the request would be that generally what major ports have done, they have been port developers. So they develop the breakwater. The breakwater is a major infrastructure. They do the channel part of the thing. The private operators, they come in and develop the terminals, the berths. So can we look at a similar model? Because you are looking at the port as an integral part of the state's industrialization. So if we can look at this aspect, then it will be a proper triple P project that makes it more viable. And the last part is accessibility or evacuation from the port. So most of the port like Paradip, he has a capacity to do even 200 million tons every year, but there is no evacuation. Here my only request would be, I think this is a point many of us have not really looked into deeply, is that are we doomed to only handle dry bulk cargo? Can we not look at container cargo in a big way? But for container cargo and container logistics, the railway routes have to be double stack container because this reduces the logistics cost dramatically. In the entire eastern belt, the eastern DFC have not been built for double stack containers. So my request would be that since a lot of new lines are coming up, new corridors are coming up, you can take up with the Ministry of Railways to make these routes double stack container. So this would actually require a higher height of the OHE to carry 2 containers in one train. So that reduces the logistics cost and you need not then have to give any viability gap funding because it makes the cost very attractive for the customer to come in. So this would be my last part of the address on the evacuation part, apart from the dedicated freight corridors and the express highways. I would also like to add here that in these corridors, please keep space for slurry pipelines and other utilities or LNG, gas pipelines so that you get a composite whole of a corridor development. And with the initiatives being taken by the government of Odisha and the enthusiasm being shown by the private sector, I am pretty sure that Odisha is poised for a big transformation. With these words, I wish everyone all the best. Thank you. Jai Utkal Janani, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please do pay your attention because it's time for the speech by our guest of honor. Please welcome. एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत करना चाहेंगे श्री मनोज आहूजा जी का, आईएएस चीफ सेक्रेटरी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ओडिशा. प्लीज वेलकम.
Namaskar and welcome to all of you once again to Utkarsh Odisha and to this session on industrial infrastructure, ports, railways and airports. I would like to also state that Honorable Minister Mr. Bhubaneshwar Jaina is himself he takes a very keen interest when we are talking about Vision 2036, when we are talking about the development of the sector. He takes a very keen interest and wants us to, deliver more. And in the department, we have a secretary who's also very active, professional, and very quick to respond and bring about changes whatever is required. And I think on the dais, we have very three esteemed colleagues of ours who working in Odisha and have contributed significantly to the development of Odisha. We've had a detailed presentation on by the secretary, on ports, by my colleagues here. So I will not add much to that information. I'll not add much to that information, but you know, there are certain things which are there, which I would like to put forth for your consideration. First is, you know, very recently, Honorable Chief Minister and some of us went on a delegation to Singapore. And as he himself says, it was his first trip abroad, going, and Singapore was his first trip abroad, and he was naturally very curious. So the first thing we went, amongst many places, we went to the Jurong petrochemical complex. Now obviously when you see it, somebody had conceived of it in 1990. Singapore is neither an oil consumer nor an exporter, and to think at that time that they'll make a petrochemical complex was itself a very visionary exercise, and they made it happen. Not only made it happen, they made it happen in a very, very professional way, and it contributes more than 10-12% of their economy right now. We also went to their port, which I think handles slightly less than 50% of the container traffic globally. Again, it's a transshipment place, but the fact, and they don't have land like we have. I think their land would be much less than what Paradeep has, but the sheer efficiency. It was automated, you couldn't see human beings there, state-of-the-art infrastructure, very efficient, economical, and most of the shipping lines, cargo lines, then you use it as a shipping hub. Now naturally, when the Chief Minister was there, he would turn around, and since we happen to be near, he would ask, why don't you do the same things in Odisha? It's a very natural question. You see, any political leader who's elected, he says, now, he says, why are we not doing similar things in Odisha? Why are we not able to do this? Why is it that it's happening there? When you think deep into it, there is no reason which I could say why we are not able to do it. It's not lack of resources, it's not lack of private enterprise, it's not lack of intent from the government, it's not lack of any other thing. The intent is there. When we make this Vision 2036, when we have this Utkarsh Odisha, what is the whole intent of this? It's just to transform this and to be global in our endeavors. There are 3 or 4 things you should understand that for Odisha, the state is growing now at, let us say, about 8% on an average in real terms, and we intend that we can grow at a slightly higher rate. That is number one. Number two, we believe that investment in infrastructure, logistics, ports and infrastructure, other infrastructure is a prerequisite, is a necessity for the state for bringing down costs to making other economic activities more economical. So it has a what can I say, positive externalities or direct benefits for any industry. If your roads are efficient, if you have less costs, obviously you become globally competitive if your ports are efficient. So this is a priority area for the government. Secondly, when we are talking about a growth story, we are growing at 8%, we want to grow at a higher growth rate. Some of this would come from increased spending in the infrastructure sector. It's like a traditional, you boost demand by pumping in money, both through the government. Ours is one of the lowest debt GDP ratio in the country, and the state is willing to invest much more upfront in the coming 3-4 years in infrastructure. There are a lot of plans in our head. It could be different big projects, could be railways, could be airports, could be other sectors. That's one. Second, we would be willing, wherever projects are to some extent viable, we would like to invite PPP. It could be a boost model, it could be a part model like in ports, or it could be full roads, it could be anything. But there is a whole scope in getting private sector investment, both in terms of, we feel their managerial competency is very good, they bring in a lot of money, and to that extent the state doesn't have to spend money on that. So that's the second area where we are looking for. So the state is committed in terms of giving priority to infrastructure, and secondly, increase our spending on it, invite private participation wherever money is not there. So coming to that question, what is actually preventing us from being global in what we are doing. One thing which I will request you to do, it could be, which I think Mr. Tripathi mentioned, alluded to in his talk, was regarding these policy frameworks. The job of the government is to ensure that good policy is available, procedures are simple, there is ease of doing business, and there is basic law and order, or whatever is expected from a, let's say, a private firm would expect. So I think that is one area. If you have ideas, you mentioned some of them right now, but I would request you to go deeper into it, share a much deeper note. If you are in the port sector, just give us 4 or 5 points, but a little bit detailed. What do you mean by it? For example, you mentioned about a boot project or a boost road project. Give us a little detailed note. It helps us. It helps us to react faster to what you say and to, bring it out in the open. I'm very happy to say, like I'll tell you about the indirect benefits yesterday. I was sitting in other sessions, somebody mentioned, about the need for containerization at Paradip Port, how it will help their industry. Somebody mentioned about, that the government of Odisha has recently relaxed building codes. We had very tight building codes, so if you are an enterprise, it becomes very restrictive. So I think it was done recently, who had taken the initiative and done it. But he responded and he was very happy. So I was also very happy to hear that that has been done. So I'm saying your feedback is very valuable to us. It could be whatever knowledge we have put it out in that policy. But you, as the people on the ground, you know where the shoe pinches. You know what can help. How can we push forward in our vision to increase our growth rate? So we would request you to do that. Secondly, also in case there are regulatory hurdles, there are problems in ease of doing business and things like that. If you can give your feedback on that, we would definitely kind of invest in that. The PPP frameworks I have talked about, we would be coming out with them, whichever sectors, wherever are partly, and the whole world is open to us. It could be roads, it could be airports, it could be anything. And we would like to invite private enterprise in pushing it forward. Capital funding, I told you that we would be increasing, and the other thing which I would like to bring about is, whenever we sometimes the government is not, we are not the ones investing the money like you are doing. So sometimes people say that we don't have skin in the game. Like it's a decision taken by a person who is not really bearing the risks. Sometimes it may not be very optimal if you look at it. And that's why it's important for the government to have a skin in the game, to know how you see the things, how you perceive the risks, how will it work out. The more comfortable you are, the less risks there are for you, a more stable policy environment you have, I think more of you would come forward to invest, and then we stand behind that, and we would like to create that environment for you, and we stand committed to it. We would like to work as a team and make what we are saying into a reality. One small thing, I was reading, I think in the newspaper yesterday or maybe today, that's about a small AI kind of application like ChatGPT called, I think, DeepSeek, which is developed by a Chinese startup. Now it has shaken up the world. It has shaken it up because you would have seen stock markets, stock prices of certain well-known AI companies in America tumble. Why? It was very unexpected, and then it sets you thinking. There was a startup in a remote place. It didn't have the environment like Silicon Valley, and yet you are coming out of things which are global. And I think it's an issue where we have to collectively think that when the Honorable Prime Minister says Viksit 2047, I think one of the things he is trying to make us understand is that all of us collectively have to believe in ourselves, to have that mindset. If I'm saying that in 5 years we want to change Odisha, doesn't mean that after 2 years we'll come again in a conference and say, yes, we want to change Odisha. That is not what. We have to believe in ourselves. Ultimately, who will make the difference? It's either the government, the Honorable Minister who's going to take the decision is there, the Secretary is there, I am there, people who are going to invest are there, some of the biggest players in the country, you are there who want to invest. So I think we cannot now have any other excuse. So that belief in ourselves, and the fact, like that small example from China shows, and I can tell you there are so many examples which we can find from India also. But that mindset, that aspirational mindset, that these 2 decades would be India's decades, where we actually set up, become an integral part of the global supply chain, have quality infrastructure, world-class infrastructure, our companies are globally competitive, is possible, and collectively we can do it. If we believe in ourselves, then we can repeat the story of countries who have in 2 decades, shown growth more than 8%, 9%, and just crossed from what you call a, let's say, a developing stage or a least developed country stage to a developed country. So I think that belief in ourselves is very necessary, which we should have. Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, Honorable Chief Minister also mentioned the fact that if you come forward, we will go much ahead of that, we'll push you much further. For that, like I said, I would like you to actually think through what you're saying. It becomes easier for us. You can, even though may seem all knowing, we have very limited knowledge about a lot of things. Let's be fair about it. The more you help us, if you want quick decision making from the government, some of the work you will have to do. When you come up, just put a little bit of thought behind it so that it's easier for us to react to what you are saying, and you can rest assured we would do so in very quick time. We have, again, I'll repeat that in terms of funds, the state is well placed. We will be investing much more in capital funding. I think some of the points you made about viability ports, like you have those breakwaters and then you make those canals and all. If that makes it viable, we would. If you need viability, we are also thinking of infrastructure which will probably become viable after some years. Maybe we will invest in viability gap funding, which we are doing in planes, in other things and things like that. So actually, if you ask me, when the Chief Minister says, why can't you do it in Odisha, I don't have any answers. I don't have any answers why we can't do it. And I'm asking the same question to you. So if we know the answers collectively, let us work together, let us work closely, give us your suggestions. You will find that the government will react very quickly to them. But let us whatever we are talking about, let us bring it to the job. That is the least the generation which is coming out of schools, college expects from us. That we have an economy, we create jobs so that people who are coming out get those jobs, and everybody, the investors and others who are investing for that prosper. So that's my request to you. Please, whatever I have said, please take it, with a seriousness. And I would expect that after you've come there, you've interacted, you've done there, do send us in a written form 1 or 2 pages of the sector you are working in, specific things you think would make us work better jointly with you. And our commitment is the sheer presence of Honorable Minister, the Secretary, myself being here and all others. The government is actually committed in what it is saying, and we would like to actually show these results on the ground. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. अब समय है एक ऐतिहासिक चुक्तिनामे का. Yes, you hear me right. It's time for the MOU between. जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए इस ऐतिहासिक क्षण के लिए. It's time for the MOU between Government of Odisha and India One Air to strengthen regional air connectivity in the state. This would allow interstate and intrastate connectivity for remote places of Odisha, such as Jaipur and Malkangiri. This should not only improve the local connectivity but also develop tourism in the state. It's time for a photo session. I'd like to request our guest. Thank you so much. Congratulations. एक बार जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए इस ऐतिहासिक क्षण के लिए. Government of Odisha and India One Air. Thank you so much. Right after that, it's time for the MOU between the Government of Odisha and Aero Club of India. Government of Odisha and Aero Club of India to position Odisha as a hub for aero fostering adventure tourism and aviation skill development. This would foster the development and optimal utilization and unutilized airstrip in the state. Congratulations. Again, would like for a photo session, please. Thank you so much, everyone. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सभी का। आसन ग्रहण करने के लिए सभी को अनुरोध करूंगी। इसके पश्चात अब समय है उन्हें सुनने का जिनके लिए हम सब यहाँ पे हैं, जिनकी वजह से हम सब यहाँ पे हैं। एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ अभिभाषण के लिए हम सभी के उद्देश्य में स्वागत करना चाहेंगे मान्यवर केंद्र मंत्री वाणिज्य एवं परिवहन विभाग ओडिशा सरकार श्री विभूति भूषण जेना महोदय को।
जय जगन्नाथ। एक बार तो मेरा साथ बोलिए, जय जगन्नाथ। सबको सादर नमस्कार। आज मुझे मौका मिला है कि आपके सामने बात रखने के लिए। हमारा जो अभी ये सेशन चल रहा है, ये उत्कर्ष उड़ीसा मेक इन उड़ीसा कंक्लेव 2025 का ये महाकुंभ है इन्वेस्टर का, उड़ीसा के भविष्य के लिए। हमारा बीच है हमारा चीफ सेक्रेटरी मनोज आहूजा जी, हमारा डिपार्टमेंट का प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी मैडम उषा पाड़ी जी, ये पारादीप पोर्ट ट्रस्ट के चेयरमैन हरनाथ जी, रिंकेश बाबू जिनके पिताजी 2 दिन हुआ गुजर चुके हैं, फिर भी हमारे बीच ये पहुंचे हैं और मेरे ओर से उनका पिताजी का अमर आत्मा शांति पाई मैं श्रद्धांजलि ज्ञापन करूँ। एवं हमारे बीच सुब्रत त्रिपाठी जी, वो मुंद्रा मैन है। मुंद्रा का आपका परिचय है, मुंद्रा के लिए सब लोग जानते हैं। आप अदानी ग्रुप के ये कार्य संभाल रहे हैं, फिर भी आपको भारत में आप पोर्ट क्षेत्र में जाने माने चेहरा है। और मेरे सामने बैठे हुए सब इंडस्ट्री लीडर, स्टेक होल्डर्स एंड इन्वेस्टर्स, I'm happy that a session on Odisha Maritime Vision, Port of the Future, is included in such a mega event. This is dedicated to our chess vision and objectives to develop our maritime resources for Vikasit Odisha, for Vikasit Bharat. Odisha, under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Sri Mohan Charan Majhi, is fully committed for developing new ports, upgrading the existing ports, inland waterways, captive jetties, and other port-dependent infrastructure in Odisha. Our state is a principal maritime state situated on the eastern coast of India with a vast coastline of 480 kilometers. What our principal secretary told me that it has been recalculated that 475 kilometers per hour. More than 480 kilometers, and 12 major flowing through rivers flowing through the state of Odisha holds a huge potential to become a leader in the maritime sector. Odisha has a glorious maritime history. It dates back 2,500 years when the traders, namely Sadhavas of Odisha, had prosperous trading with Southeast Asian countries like Bali, Java, Sumatra, Indonesia, Thailand, China, etc. We celebrate our maritime heritage through festivals like Boito Bandana Utshava and Bali Yatra. The trader Sadhavas of Odisha had knowledge of navigation. There is a folklore called Akka Maabai. सुब्रत जी आपका बात है, आप आका महाबई आ इन उड़िया मन आषाढ़ का कार्तिक मा माघ Baishakha means Sadhavas used to sail boats when southwest monsoon flows in the month of June, Ashara to November, Kartik. And during the month of January, Magha, to May, Vaishakha, when northeast monsoon slows, the stocks they return. Ports along Odisha coast will not only play a vital role for development of the state, but also pave way for development of neighboring landlocked states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, etc. by providing multiple exits and landing points for their export and import. These ports will act as important national maritime trade gateways of India. Government of Odisha had notified 14 number of potential locations for development of non-major ports in the state, namely Vichitrapura, Bahabalapura, Chandipura, Inchudi, Chudamani, Jotadharmana, Baliharchandi, Subarnarekha, riverine ports, Astaranga, Palur, Bahuda, Mohana, Dhamara, and Gopalpur. Paradip is a major port in the state with 289 million metric ton annual cargo handling capacity. Odisha has also two fully functional non-major ports, Dhamra port in Bhadrak and Gopalpur in Ganjam district. Both the ports have a capacity to handle 65 million metric ton of cargo every year. Both of the ports are ISPC and NSPC compliant to uphold the safety and security standards in the ports. The Subarnarekha and Astaranga ports are being developed. Steps are also being taken for the development of riverine ports in Odisha. With the development of ports and inland water transport, the dependency on road and rail transport will decrease, which will result in decrease in road congestion, pollution, and accident. Transportation through inland waterway and coastal water is cheaper than road and rail transport. I would also like to highlight that Odisha is looking forward to the development of new major port, shipbuilding and repair industries, cruise terminal and marinas within the state to leverage its natural coastline and boost cargo handling as well as maritime tourism along the eastern coast of the country. Government of Odisha have entered into several MOUs for establishment of mineral-based heavy industries in the steel and aluminum sector, power plants, and petrochemical complex in the state. The ports and industries are complement to each other. The development of port sector in the state is expected to play a vital role in sustainable and inclusive growth of the state and the nation. Complementing the maritime sector, Odisha is leading in the aviation sector as well. Odisha has 5 operational civilian ports and at Bhubaneshwar, Raurkela, Jharsuguda, Jaipur and Utkela. Further 7 more airports are in pipeline to be developed. This will not only enhance the connectivity to the remote area of the state, it will also boost the tourism sector. To facilitate the aviation sector, Odisha is also looking forward to bringing in world-class MRO companies coming to roadways. The road transport accounts for majority of transport in the state. Odisha has a robust public transport system, which is the lifeline for people, providing the last mile connectivity in both urban and rural areas. This is facilitated by the Odisha State Road Transport Corporation, Capital Region Urban Transport through the State Transport Authority ensure the people are traveling in a safety on the roads. To facilitate the cargo movement and improving the interstate and intrastate connectivity, the Western Odisha Expressway connecting Chandil to Raurkela along the east coast, Odisha Economic Corridor is being developed, which will connect Bhubaneshwar to Kolkata in north and to Visakhapatnam in south. The Odisha Economic Corridor will create a seamless connectivity with Kolkata and Chennai, thus connecting various industrial centers along the corridor. Recently, the state has initiated the bus service from various parts of Odisha to the Ayodhya. So the people can visit the Mahakumbh Mela, which is one of its kind in entire world. In railway, Odisha has 2,992 kilometer long rail network in which 98% has been electrified. With the declaration of new railway line projects such as Gunapuru Therwali, Chakulia Keonjhargada, Junagada Navarampur, Jaipur Malkanagiri, Bhadrachalam Pandurangapuram, the state will have an enhanced rail connectivity as well. Thus, with all modes of transportation under one roof, with efficient coordination and optimal use of resources, Odisha is planning for enhanced multimodal connectivity with all the industrial hubs within Odisha, as well as with the neighbors. The comprehensive infrastructure development with modern technology would help in improving performance at par with global standard in the state. This would bring significant economic benefit to a diverse range of stakeholders. The holistic development will boost connectivity and development of Odisha as well as the whole country. Friends, our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has emphasized the growth of ports, airports, roadways and railways in the country. Adhering Honorable PM's view, we in our state are working for developing the transport sector in Odisha to improve the trade, commerce and industries. Our government led by Honorable CM Sri Mohan Charan Majhi is working with focus on this sector. I request all the stakeholders attending this session to come forward and for development of port, airport, railway and roadways in the state. I extend my invitation to investors, entrepreneurs and industry leaders of cooperation. हमारा सरकार पूरा कनेक्टिविटी के लिए चाहे वो पोर्ट हो, एयरपोर्ट हो, रोडवे हो या हाईवे हो, रोडवेज हो, हमारा कनेक्टिविटी के लिए हम काम कर रहे हैं. ये कनेक्टिविटी और एक कनेक्टिविटी जरूरत है आपका साथ और हमारा गवर्नमेंट. इधर आए हुए, इधर बैठे हुए ये सेशन में जो इंडस्ट्री लीडर्स है और स्टेक होल्डर्स है और इन्वेस्टर है, उनका साथ हमारा सरकार का कनेक्टिविटी चाहिए. मैं विश्वास दिलाता हूं हमारा सरकार पूरा आपके लिए काम करेगा, उड़ीसा का भविष्य के लिए, 2036 में विकसित भारत के लिए, विकसित उड़ीसा के लिए और विकसित भारत के लिए. फिर एक बार धन्यवाद देते हुए और आपको विश्वास दिलाते हुए मेरे वाणी को विराम देता हूं. भारत माता की जय, वंदे उत्कल जननी, जय हिंद. फिर एक बार जय जगन्नाथ.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद महोदय आपके इस अभिभाषण के लिए. फिर से सभी से निवेदन करना चाहूंगी, माननीय मंत्री जी के लिए एक बार जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए. अब पहले सेशन के अंतिम पर्याय में हम हैं. ये समय है मंच पे उपस्थित हमारे अतिथियों को सम्मानित करने का. इसीलिए सर्वप्रथम मैं अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी हमारे प्रिंसिपल सेक्रेटरी महोदया से, वो संबोधित करेंगे माननीय मंत्री जी को. अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी, प्लीज मोमेंट ले आए. एक बार जोरदार तालियां चाहूंगी सभी से. उनके बाद ही उषा मैम को अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी, वो संबोधित करेंगी श्री मनोज आहूजा सर को. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपकी इस उपस्थिति के लिए. एवं विभाग के अन्य उच्च पदाधिकारियों को अनुरोध करूंगी मंच पे उपस्थित अन्य हमारे सभी सम्मानित अतिथियों को मोमेंटो प्रदान करके संबोधित करने के लिए अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी. प्लीज थोड़ी तालियां सभी से निवेदन करना चाहूंगी, बजती रहनी चाहिए. मंच पे उपस्थित सभी सम्मानित अतिथियों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करना चाहेंगे पूरे विभाग की तरफ से। अपना बहुमूल्य समय देकर आज के इस सेशन को सफलपूर्वक सफल कराने के लिए बहुत ही बेहतरीन तरीके से आज का ये सेशन जो पहला सेशन था हमारा संपूर्ण हो रहा है, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब समय है एक फोटो सेशन का। एक बेहतरीन सेशन था, इतने महान हस्तियां हमारे साथ थे, एक ऐतिहासिक मोमेंट था हम सभी के लिए, इसलिए इसे जरूर हम कैप्चर करना चाहेंगे। एक बार जोरदार तालियां फिर से सभी की तरफ से आप सभी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। एंड मंच पे उपस्थित सभी अतिथियों से निवेदन भी करना चाहेंगे कि नेक्स्ट सेशन के लिए अगर उनकी उपस्थिति हमारे साथ रहती है तो हमारे लिए बहुत ही सौभाग्य की बात होगी। वॉलेंटियर्स से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे नेक्स्ट सेशन के लिए प्लीज सब रेडी रखिए। कॉर्डलेस ऑन कीजिए।
Thank you so much.
कॉर्डलेस ऑन कीजिए।
Sir, sir, ଆପଣ ଯିବେ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଡାକିବି sir ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ। ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୁଁ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଦଉଛି, ସ୍ପେଶାଲି ଆମର ମାନ୍ୟବର ମନ୍ତ୍ରୀଙ୍କୁ। ତାଙ୍କର ଦେହ ବି ଟିକେ ଆଜି ଅସ୍ୱସ୍ଥ ଥିଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ ସେ ଆସିଲେ ଆମ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ। ଆଉଥରେ ବି ଆସିବେ, ସନ୍ଧ୍ୟାରେ ଆଉଥରେ ଆସିବେ, ଏବେ କୌଣସି ଅଲଗା କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକ୍ରମ ପାଇଁ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି। ତ ମୋର ଅଫିସର୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କରୁଛି ତାଙ୍କୁ ସି ଅଫ୍ କରିବେ। तो मो आउतरे हमर ऑर्गेनाइजर्स को अछंती तांको कहबी इमीडिएटली से माने सेटअप कर देबे एटी। वी विल नाउ हैव द पैनल डिस्कशन। आई विल रिक्वेस्ट ऑल द मेंबर्स टू स्टे बैक हु आर देयर, दे कैन बी पार्ट ऑफ द पैनल डिस्कशन without much dislocation. I'll request other members who can stay back and they can be part of audience, they can stay back. I'll request Honorable Chief Secretary, sir, he can also be there. It's a very interesting session.
थैंक यू सो
I'll
मच।
request the panelists to, thank you so much.
सभी से निवेदन करना चाहेंगे, हॉल के अंदर जो लोग भी आज इस सेशन में थे उन सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी पैनल डिस्कशन के लिए आप प्लीज अपनी उपस्थिति रखें। प्लीज प्लीज एवरीवन टेक योर सीट्स।
Can we have the panelists to come on the dais? I'll request anchor to invite each one of them.
Yes, ma'am. So it's time for the second session. Before that, would like to request everyone, please settle down. पैनल डिस्कशन में हम डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं ओडिशा's logistic revolution, driving growth through
I'll request Chief
multimodal
Secretary,
solution.
sir. Chief Secretary, sir, if you can stay back for some more time. Sir, we can request you for some more, sir. You can be there part of it, sir. Okay. So
I think he has gone, he knows that we really wants to more invest. So now, what are the difficulties? What we can do more? And Odisha is an excellent state, having lot of facilities, but what we can do? My answer is, and in short I am telling, that the capacity expansion of the deep draft food, what Mr. Tripathi has explained, that is one point, that the capacity should be more. Then the automation and smart port technologies, that has to be introduced more, because today's world is moving in automation. So that automation has to come more in smart port technologies. I am not going into details. Enhancement of connectivity, what we have discussed now is connectivity is also very important. Green and sustainable port development, which is also very important, and that has to be there. And this public-private partnership, we are all looking for the public partnership. We are doing also in Paradip, we have done in Bengal, we have done in Andhra Pradesh, in Vizag. All ports, we have got our own terminal, we are running our own terminal with PPP projects. We are the first company in India having PPP project in Haldia coal terminal. So we know, and we are really happy to work in Paradip, but these things, automation has to be more, and the customs formalities and there has to be more automation has to be there, and which will develop the port sector, in my opinion, in short, that can be, the automation can be because others all we discussed, but the automation part I think we require more in Odisha.
I was not getting that word, the customs brokerage. That's what you do. So do you tell in the supply chain management or the custom related issues, one or two problems you face which can be addressed by the state? You don't face the problem, we are very happy.
By state, it is customs is directly under the central government. So state here is less rule in that sense. But I think that only the state can have a dialogue with the customs department or the central government, CBIC, the board, that the automation should be more, it will be started, because in other ports, the automation has gone into the next level, which is not there in Paradip, which should be done.
Thank you. Don't underestimate us, because for air cargo, whatever required from the customs, we are getting it cleared. Okay, so please tell us if there is any problem. Okay.
That is why I told that to discuss with the...
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Manikant Naik, you are from Tata. I don't have any hesitation, even being a civil servant, to say that I am a very loyalist follower of Tata products. So many people say that whether I can tell it in public, but I usually tell this because they are very ethical and very, I mean, they have made Odisha has their house. So I would like to know from you, because you have also taken over Mera Mandali and you have been very active in steel sector.
Hello.
So the role of industrial park in developing logistic ecosystem in Odisha. So that is very important. Yeah, because we have been hearing, we have been hearing that this multimodal park has been a slow starter. So that's why you can tell us where the problem lies or what we can do. I mean, 1, 2, 3 like that, if you think like. Thank you.
So very good afternoon, our Honorable Chief Secretary, Secretary Ma'am, and all the delegates on the dais, of the dais. So we are, Tata Steel is known for the mining and the steel in the state. In the mining sector, probably we are close to a century old. Similarly, in the steel sector, we are in the state for maybe for more than 10 years now. But now we are from the context of this Tata Steel Special Economic Zone, which is actually developing an industrial park at Gopalpur, is very less known to the people. So as ma'am said, probably I'll take few minutes time to explain this and how this is also going to help in the economic growth of the entire state. So of course we are very slow starter with the context of the industrial park at Gopalpur. Though this land which was taken way back in 1995, 96, 30 years back, there are some, decision to shift this plant to the Kalyanagar. Then we decided to go ahead with a multi-product industrial park at Gopalpur. And if you look at the land parcel, it's a huge, it's around 3,000 acres of land. And no doubt we have taken time to get the things rolling. Our anchor project in the form of a ferrochrome plant was put up by Tata Steel itself. Then subsequently we have few more set up. One of the largest tea packaging and blending by Tata Consumer Product is also operating in at Gopalpur. This is one of the largest in the, I should say, in the country, and catering to the southern part of the country. And of late, we have joined hand with Deepak Fertilizer, their plant. This is also one of the big manufacturing unit, which is going to get commissioned within few months time from now. And moreover, we'd like to, I'm very happy to share that 4 of the green hydrogen manufacturing companies, they already joined hand, they have signed the agreement in presence of our industry secretary to put up 4 different hydrogen manufacturing unit at Gopalpur. And I also like to mention a little more on this subject. As you know that Odisha, India government has come up with a green hydrogen mission of production of 5 million ton of green hydrogen by 2030. And I'm very proud to say that the Gopalpur has already attracted more than 12% of the committed capacity of the country as a whole at Gopalpur. Though I heard what our Paradip Port Trust chairman said, but I also like to add that, we, on this 22nd of this month, World Economic Forum has officially taken note of Gopalpur and kind of registered Gopalpur Industrial Park during their board meeting at Davos, saying that the Gopalpur Industrial Park has the potential to come up as an industrial park towards the economic growth, employment opportunity and decarbonization initiative, as because we have not only onboarded the green hydrogen manufacturing unit, as well as the industries who are going to set up the solar cell and the solar module manufacturing. So so my question is, how has this been kind of achieved? So far we are, very sluggish. All these activities have happened last maybe 1 or 2 years time. And we are very proactive. The state, though, we are getting a lot of support from the state government. Very truly, it's not, I'm not trying to kind of make it, appreciate state here. But if you look at one of the regions, I should say, is the connectivity between the industrial park with the Gopalpur port. So that job which is being taken up by the IDCO authority, it's an outstanding job. I believe they are going to complete before time. So that's the kind of job which is going to give the leeway for all these people who are going to basically export their product to different countries. They find this is one of the very important enabler. And as I was hearing Mr. Subrat Tripathi was saying in the earlier session that now the talk of the town, how to create the industrial activities port-based. That is going to reduce lot of logistic costs. Probably Gopalpur, along with this Gopalpur, our Gopalpur Industrial Park with the port is the best combination. Probably we will not see much of them across the country. This is one of the very unique industrial park. And if I look at industrial park from the context of facilitation, we look at why do the government normally come up with various industrial park? Primarily to facilitate, to create an environment of the plug and play model. Probably that is the main reason for coming up with this kind of industrial park. Probably Gopalpur is going to one of them. We have the inside, if I look at, we have all the road infrastructure, we have some amount of power, water. If I look at outside, we have the 4 mode of connectivity, transportation. For the road, railway, even Gopalpur small airstrip also getting developed into a domestic airport. That is also big news. And this Gopalpur port, all these 4 different modes of transportation is going to make it very attractive. So I should also be thankful for this Utkarsh Odisha platform, by virtue of which we have also got a lot of intent from many investors to come to Gopalpur for their road. Discussion has already started. I'm very sure that we are going to be on, we are going to join hand with the government of Odisha with an only objective, how to create some economical activities as well as the employment opportunity for the people around the region. So this is in nutshell about the Gopalpur Industrial Park.
Thank you. Thank you so much. When I said the multimodal logistic parks have been little slow, not related to Tata SEZ. In general, they are saying that we have taken up around 35 And in fact, afternoon, evening, in fact, the NHLML will be coming and they will be signing one of the agreement with us. So considering this, maybe I'll next go to Nitin Thakur, who is looking after the surface transportation. So how do they integrate the multimodal logistic parks to improve the last mile connectivity? Because that is very important when we talk of road transport, surface transport, though it is very expensive, but it's a last mile one. I mean, a lot of advantages are also there. So considering this, that, can you share your thoughts?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Honorable Sir. The subject is to multimodal, how multimodal improve last mile connectivity. There are too many things. Actually, we need a proper infrastructure like a hub, multimodal hub. Actually, now presently there are not much more multimodal hub is available here. Basically, I am just talking about that automobile sector. If you see that 15 to 60% annual growth is there for automobile sector. And whenever the material will be by road, all the material is moving from factory to here, and here the consumable market. The similar thing is happening for FMCD goods also. Actually what happened na? Sorry. So if you develop a multimodal hub and that provide a proper facility on that, so that all the automobile material will be moved there, and from there after we will deliver the material to the retail sector by using a multimodal vehicles, last mile connectivity vehicle. So it will help to increase the last mile connectivity. And second point is to we need a proper road infrastructure like a smaller city and to rural area. So what happen, whenever the material will be goods from here to last mile, there are also always having issues. Second, our problem is for last mile connectivity. There are driver problem because there are not much more a proper parking is available nearby that. Whenever the bigger warehouses is there, bigger hub is there, the parking is the major problem. So by addressing all these things, if these things will be resolved, definitely last mile delivery will be increased, and we can improve a last mile connectivity to the destination point.
Thank you. Now I'll go to from land to air, Mr. Ajay Kumar. He is one person whom we have been having love and hate relationship, because we have provided some VGF for air cargo promotion in the state. So if they don't do anything, so then we'll call up and we'll be calling him regularly. So I'm sure he will be able to help us further. So the question to him is about how do we promote air cargo infrastructure, and how do we improve the air cargo movement from the state, because it has been the egg and chicken story, where we say that, okay, sufficient cargo is not there, that's why you are not putting the infrastructure. At the same time, unless we have a certain infrastructure and movement of cargo, the more cargo will not be aggregated. So how do we ensure that the air cargo movement is optimized, considering that they are very time sensitive goods? Mr. Ajay Kumar.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'll thank state of Odisha coming forward with us for making international cargo viable at Bhubaneshwar Airport. We are not coming forward for international cargo of our own due to the fact these are non-viable. Odisha government is first government who came forward and supported us for this cause. And I'll say, as the title says, this Utkarsh Odisha, Odisha has given outstanding disha to air cargo, especially in international sector. And it will take some certain time to grow air cargo. In international cargo, I'll share with you one of the fact is ki top 4 airports, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore and Chennai, that contributes almost 80% of cargo of India in export and import sector. So we need to diversify that, and one of the things we can create air freight stations at multimodal logistics parks rather than to be airport specific on airports. And AFS can reduce the cost of cargo, cost of logistics at, it will sum up, or it will basically easy for businessmen or traders to be there at their own doorstep for export and import at those logistic parks rather than coming to airports, which are quite costly property and quite away from basically logistic parks or industrial parks. That is one thing. Second thing, what is required, what ma'am pointed out, that is egg and chicken story. We need to upgrade infrastructure at airports also to certain extent. And for Odisha, we are coming up in coming 1.5 year, we are going to construct a new, basically upgraded cargo facility for domestic as well as international sector. Looking at this business growth in e-commerce sector and FMCG products, where warehousing is now taking a different hub and spoke logistic format, I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll come to railways. Some of our railway colleagues are also sitting here. Being the biggest movers in the country, I'll request Mr. Ravi Chaturvedi regarding what are the key challenges and opportunities you see in Odisha to boost the rail freight. We have something already happening, but as a top-up, what we would be doing so that we can go to the next level.
सभी को नमस्कार. Thank you, Chief Secretary sir and Madam Musapadi, Principal Secretary, Government of Odisha, for inviting me to this session. Madam, at the outset, I would like to give a small introduction about CONCOR. CONCOR stands for Container Corporation of India. It was a company formed in 1988 as a specialized arm to handle the container logistics in Indian Railways. Subsequently, from a paid-up capital of 64 crore rupees, till date, our turnover has crossed nearly 9,000 crore, and we have paid dividend of nearly 8,500 crore back to our parent organization, that is Indian Railways. Container Corporation of India is thriving in the logistics industry. When the policy of private container train operators was introduced in year 2006, prior to that, Container Corporation of India was a monopoly kind of industry running the entire container business in the country. But even after the introduction of PCTO's policies, 16 other private container train operators have entered into the business. Nevertheless, we maintain our market share at 56%, and still we are the leader in the logistics industry. What we say that think logistic, think CONCOR. As far as our strength is concerned, ma'am, we are dealing primarily with Indian Railways. It's basically a rail-based container operation company, and we are also in the multimodal kind of logistics solution related to shipping lines, ports, air cargo, and of course road transportation, ranging from first mile, last mile to providing business solutions, custom house solutions, stevedoring, and everything. At Paradip, we are into stevedoring, and our first mile, last mile activity has been fully established at our Paradip multimodal logistics park. As far as the challenges are concerned, basically, I see them as an opportunity. We have 4 dedicated terminals in Odisha, and we have many strategic partnership with the private sector, with all the major industries located in Odisha. So we have major terminals at Paradip, Jajpur, Balasore, and Jharsuguda. So it's covering nearly the entire geographical boundaries of Odisha. And we are having our strategic partnership with all the major industries like Tata, Jindal, Vedanta, but smaller groups yet like Siam Metallics, Rasmi Metallics, and Vijay Steels, ArcelorMittal. So we are into a strategic partnership with them, and we are operating in their private sidings through our own containers.
Can I please keep the mics on. If you want to change the battery, you can change it subsequently. Bring other mics. Okay. So I'll interrupt here because Rinkesh Rai ji was mentioning about the double stake containers, isn't it? So whether it comes under his domain? Okay. Tell us how you can help us.
Since we have worked hand in hand at Mundra Port, ma'am, actually there are 2 DFC line already established in India, that is Western DFC corridor and the Eastern DFC corridor. The Western DFC corridor, it starts from Dadri and goes up to Mundra, and there is another junction from where it goes to Pipavav Port, and it also touches Kandla Port. So all the 3 major ports, I mean, biggest one, the Mundra and Kandla and Pipavav, they are all connected on the double stack route directly to north, catering to the industries of North India, and we are dealing right from Dadri, Khatuas in Rajasthan to Palanpur in Gujarat, and from there to all the 3 ports on the west coast. But as far as the Eastern DFC route is concerned, that goes through entire UP. It starts from Punjab area, merges at Dadri, and then moves up to Sonnagar in Bihar, and subsequently it will go up to Dankuni in West Bengal. But somehow the design on that route is for single stack only. But I would request sir and you to kindly consider creating any rail route in Odisha for dedicated freight. It must cater the double stack operation. Double stack operation is a kind of operation which has truly revolutionized the export and import business from west to north. In 24 hours, we have been able to move double stack containers. I mean, the normal composition of a container train is of 90 boxes, but on double stack, we carry 180 with a slightly lesser tariff, and we bring it within 24 hours from Mundra to Dadri. So that is the real game changer, double stack operation. So
we understand, but only thing, you please prepare a strategy, because we know that one dedicated corridor, Hardaspur to Paradip, which is again a dedicated one. Please let us know when we have the discussion with railways. When they are putting this, it has to be compatible for that. I mean, then it is automatically, it will be double, no? Like whatever evacuation we are talking, it can be automatically doubled. So
Sure.
as a strategy we can utilize. Please tell us, maybe we can take it up later.
Definitely, ma'am.
Okay.
We will be
So,
working on it.
Thank you. I will go to Mr. KV Mahida because of the skilling program in Odisha. You must be knowing that the skill in Odisha is our pride branding. So considering that, we have also discussed that how human resources are so central to the entire logistic, and it is so unorganized. We have to make it formalized, and also brings that aspiration among the youth so that they can come and work in logistic. Otherwise, logistic is backbone breaking type of job. So many would not come in. So how do you make it more aspirational and the demands for logistic and multimodal transport industry, how we can address this issue? This is very, very useful for Odisha. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving this opportunity to participate in this one. See, we have been listening this last almost 2 hours about what type of infrastructure that is required for make the logistics competitive. One of the very important infrastructure parallelly we have to develop is human resources. Whatever infrastructure technology we bring, we also parallelly prepare our manpower to operate that efficiently so that then only we'll get the competitiveness. As Madam has mentioned, Odisha has taken a lot of initiatives towards skilling the manpower related to the logistics so that the sector can be better. Ma'am, recently we concluded the national level study in terms of what is the requirement for the country. We need 1 million people every year for the next 5 years to meet the logisticians requirement. And in Odisha, at least 30,000 per year we need here. We are talking about these numbers only to meet our present requirement, assuming that there is no attrition. Unfortunately, attrition in the logistics is 25 to 30%. So that means we need to prepare to that extent the extra manpower. Just to slightly diverting from your question, as in India, similar to IT industry, we have a huge potential to make India as logisticians hub for the world. That amount of requirement is there in the world. We can train not only for our requirement, even for the global requirements. Coming to your specific question, ma'am, I fully agree with you. We need to make this logistician's job more aspirational. See, there are few models I can suggest here what we are working here continuously. One is standalone training centers that continuously work towards generating the meeting the requirements of the logisticians. Over and above that, to make this logistician job more aspirational, we need to go for high-end training centers. These centers are coming up very well across the country with the support of the industry. That means industry is coming forward either with the CSR money or as a part of the logistics parks or industrial parks. This infrastructure is coming parallelly to ensure that the logisticians are aspirational jobs, not just to make them aspirational go to the other countries, because as we see the technology penetration in the logistics is going very well. So the existing logisticians should be trained further to make this as aspirational. The second model we are working on, ma'am, with education institutions with the slogan that logistics for all. Whether the person is from engineering or BCom or BSc or any stream of education, the logistics and supply chain knowledge is a must. Like everybody should know the computer operation, we believe this understanding will help them to work across various sectors, various streams of the economy. So what we are suggesting in the education institution is to develop logistics academies in the institutions so that as they study, they can parallelly understand the logistics supply chain. In fact, CBSE has come with a model of introducing the vocational training certificate program as one of the options in their curriculum for the plus 10 and plus 2 also. So making this logistics as a sector from the unorganized to organized, one of the key requirements is how to make our logisticians more organized. I fully agree with you, ma'am. It's a good steps taken by Odisha. Still a long way to go at the overall country level to make our logistics sector seen as more organized. It should be seen as more aspirational sector.
Thank you so much. I am coming to Mr. Bhaskar at the end because he wanted to make the presentation also. By the time you have this presentation ready, maybe very briefly you can tell about the prospectus, what we have for MRO, and seamlessly you can integrate with your presentation. After this presentation, maybe I'll come to everyone for 2 to 3 minutes. Very quickly, you can tell about the second part of your question, which we have circulated. So on that, so that we can complete it on time. So Mr. Bhaskar, over to you. You can start.
Should I go straight to presentation?
Yeah, that would be better. And meanwhile, they prepare the presentation. If you would like to say something, you can also start the introduction. Yeah.
First of all, I feel
You have to adjust the mic.
Is it better? I feel privileged to be here. I also find that I am in minority here, one in aviation and that too in MRO, which is the back end of aviation. Having said, just to give a background about the industry and the ecosystem that it is, MRO, a lot of has been done in last 10 years to bring MRO from not being recognized as an industry to a lot of policy changes which have happened in last 10 years. And I'm fortunate to have worked along with ma'am in our previous role in MOCA, where many of these changes have come in. So today, from a policy standpoint, we are at a very good position. We are at a inflection point where we can really take off. Whichever way you slice and dice this business, whichever way you look at this business, today all the macro environment, macro players are pointing towards a huge growth in MRO sector. I'm seeing this representing a company which has been in the MRO sector for 75 years. So it's almost as old as civil aviation in the country. So we have seen the days when MRO was not being recognized as an industry. We have seen when MRO was not given a hangar space within the airport because we were not aviation company and we were to do some cargo business so that we could qualify as someone who has aircraft to be in the airport. Today where you are being invited to set up hangars and MROs at various places. Also, we are present at 26 locations, but unfortunately, Odisha was not one of the place, and I think time has come for us to put up our presence in Odisha as well. With that background, let me start with my presentation. The first slide, please. I'll just take 3 slides on a background about the airworks so that you have some idea about what we have been doing for the country in the MRO space. Next slide. So as I talked about, we are 75 years old in the country in the MRO space. We are doing comprehensive service on the MRO. So we are the only MRO company which has been supporting commercial, which is supporting private jet maintenance, which is supporting defense and avionics upgrades. We are in certification and participation with almost all the players that you can think of in the aviation sector. And we have close to 1,300 expertise workforce, and as I told you, we are present across 26 locations. Next slide, please. So these are, on a nutshell, on a single page, our customers, our certifications and our OEM relations. Quite extensive, being the largest in the country and the oldest in the country. We serve all the airlines in the country. We serve international airlines in the country. You might have heard this, that 70% of the aircrafts go outside the country. That's not true any longer. In fact, many of the international aircrafts come to the country for maintenance. So that's a huge change thanks to the policy changes that has happened in last 10 years. We are certified not just by DGCA but by European Aviation Standard, which is EASA, and some 20 plus aviation regulators across the globe. So again, from an acceptance standpoint, we are accepted across the globe by the various players, by the various countries. So we have skin in the game, we have presence across, we have reputation in the aviation sector to deliver what is required out of us. And our relationship, again, you see the marquee names in the OEMs in the aviation, we have long relationship with them. This is a snapshot of our portfolio. From heavy maintenance to line maintenance to integrated maintenance to cabin refurbishment, avionics upgrades. So we are into the entire gamut of MRO services. Again, given that we were for a large time the only player in the country, it was a expectation out of us to be a single window service provider, and which is what we have done all these years. This is a photo of our one of the hangars at Hosur in Tamil Nadu, very close to Bangalore. We have close to 15,000 square meters of area under hangars, and we have a capability of handling 10 narrow body aircrafts parallelly. We have facility in Hosur, and we have facility in Cochin. This is the photograph of Cochin facility. Again, this facility was put up during COVID. When everyone was writing the epitaph of MRO, we said, no, this is the time to expand, and we expanded the MRO capabilities in Cochin, and this facility came up during COVID time, and it was inaugurated during COVID time, and some of the senior leaders of the industry made sure that they attend that to encourage me and the company on our gut and feel about the MRO and the future of MRO. We are the only guys who are in defense sector. Now, when we talk about MRO, we forget that we always talk about civil MRO. The defense MRO is equal, if not larger, than the civil MRO. You know, one of the slides I will talk about what is the what is the total addressable market of MRO, and the defense is almost as big as civil. It will be equal to almost $5 billion on the defense side, and not only this, it has a very strategic reason for being in defense sector. So that any need for maintenance is taken care within the country, not just for the aircrafts of the country, but even for the region which we can do. On the slide, you can see P8I, which is the naval reconnaissance aircraft. This aircraft we have been maintaining right since the inception in the country. The second one is the aircraft which Prime Minister flew yesterday to Bhubaneshwar. This is the BBJ. This again for last 10 plus years we have been maintaining in the country, and I am very proud to say that this aircraft has never gone outside the country for maintenance. So whatever maintenance that needs to be done, whatever avionics upgrades that needs to be done, whatever communication systems that needs to be upgraded on this aircraft, that has been done in the country by us. And the next one you see is Embraers, which is the VIP aircrafts which is used across by the leaders of our country, and this is just a beginning. With more NATO aircrafts getting inducted, there is a lot more potential to be in the defense space as a MRO. Now, with that short background about Airworks and what we have done, I would like to quickly jump into the industry overview. Now, just to give again a bird's eye view of what we address, on the right hand side are the various service components which are there, which an MRO is supposed to address. The red or the orange, red box is the various services which have to be provided and the users of those services. And this sector, the users and the owners of the assets are different. So there are some services that you provide to the end users, and some services you provide to the owners of the. These are the various sub-segments of the services that we provide: the commercial, the business, the defense, and the engine and the component overall. Next. This is a very interesting slide, and while I'm presenting this slide, just yesterday, CRISIL came with a report that FY26, the MRO revenue in the country will jump up by 50%. And FY25 also, I should thank God, has not been a very bad year. We have done almost as an industry 40+% growth in FY25. So on a base of FY25 of a 40% growth, growing in FY26 by 50% really talks about the times for MRO has finally come. Currently, the market is estimated to be 1.6 billion, and it is expected to grow to $5 billion. And again, this is number one, just India. And now we are not wanting to do MRO just for Indian carriers. We want to do MRO for the region. So this number, I will tell you what is the regional, addressable market for us. And this does not include defense. So by 2034, you should look at minimum of $10 billion of addressable market. So which is a huge demand out of the MRO sector. The passenger traffic, you are all aware, it is growing big time. 370 million, which is expected to go to 600. By the way, 60% of this traffic is from tier 1 city to either tier 2 or tier 1. So it is the entire potential of India has still not been exploited out here as far as passenger traffic is concerned. Number of airports, we have heard this from various leaders. There is a plan to increase the current 137.
Can we come to, just for the paucity of time, can we quickly go to the Odisha part?
I think the key thing to look at is the pie out there. What we as a country currently do is the 15% and 17%, the line and base maintenance we are doing, and we have got into Atmanirbharta out there. 100% of all the aircrafts in the country are getting addressed here, and as I said, we are addressing the regional airlines also. Just to give you some idea, 30% of our turnover today is dollar denominated. So that's the U-turn that the industry has taken in terms of supporting the airlines in the country. What we need to really get into is the other two bars out there, the 43% and the 25%, which is on the component overall and the engines. To achieve the CAGR growth rate of 12 to 13%, these are the various things which have to come together: the government support, the rising demand, the fleet expansion, infrastructure growth, and the private and public participation. Let me move forward. This is an interesting slide. The speaker before me talked about skill development. Now, one of the biggest strengths we had in this market has been our low-cost labor input, which in this industry is a substantial one. Close to 80% of the cost composition is labor, and that being efficient is very good, very attractive. Having said, there is a huge change which is happening in the industry. There is a severe shortage of labor across the world, from US to Europe to Middle East to Far East. There is a severe shortage. They are finding it difficult to just maintain their aircrafts, and we have to not just maintain our existing fleet but also take care of the growth which is happening. So in a way, we will be the nursery to the entire world as far as aviation skill manpower is concerned. And there is a lot we need to do to achieve the kind of growth that is out there. The global MRO growth is expected to grow at a CAGR of 1.3, and we will be 6 times that at 12%. So to take care of this and also to take care of the global growth, there is a lot to be done on the skilling side. Again, something on the passenger traffic. and also on the load factor. Again, this slide you would have read that the passenger traffic is growing, the load factors are 90% plus percentage. So this is again an important slide for us to know that maintenance has to be done in the country to ensure the effective utilization of the asset. If a asset has to go abroad, there is a turnaround time gets extended by that time. So if you can deliver within, because the assets are being sweated to the fullest, if a asset is being used at 90% of its capacity and consistently, but all the airlines, that shows that there is an inherent strength in the industry. Now we have to ensure that the availability of those assets should not be in the hangars for a long time, should not be waiting to go abroad for maintenance, or engines should not be sent across, and none of the aircraft should be grounded, because that's a national wastage which we should avoid doing it. All press releases which are talking about huge investments that is going to happen very soon in the aviation sector. New airports coming in, airports growing to 270 across
Mr.
country.
Bhaskar,
So the kind of investment that will be done by airport authority and also private sector airport operators
Mr. Bhaskar,
is
I
huge.
think statistics we
Okay.
can leave. I am
Okay.
sure we'll
Okay.
circulate them among
Done,
the
done.
stakeholders. You can just go to the Odisha, because
Next.
some of them have to
Yeah.
leave for the airport, I think.
Next. I'll skip this.
I'm sure
Next.
these things will be there. You can go to the
Right.
Odisha. You had some slides
Right,
on Odisha, right?
Right. Now, this is the addressable market. We shouldn't limit ourselves to India, and we shouldn't be satisfied with the $5 billion growth. The total addressable market is $37 billion, which is 5 hours flying distance. We should give back to the world what the world has been giving to us for last 10-15 years, which is taking our business to their stand. So it's now time to get their business into our show. Next. Unfortunately, this is the current situation. The extreme left side is what we do for Indigo as a country. The right side bars are all going out of the country. So that's something which we need to capture. Next. There is a vertical line right now where the west of India is serviced well by MRO, but the east needs to be serviced, and I will come to why east also should have MRO capabilities. Just go to the previous slide. Just one point I want to do, because there are policy makers out here. Policy makers typically believe that a policy change for it to culminate into results would take 2 to 3 years. But the last policy change which has happened, which is reducing GST to 5%. Now this is what the industry was requesting the policy makers for, a level playing field when you are competing with the regional player. And when the government did this in the summer of this year, last year, suddenly all the hangars in the country were chock-a-block. Today the hangar utilization of not just Airworks but across all the hangars is more than 87%. So that's the impact of a positive policy change on the industry. Next. Yeah. Next. See, one key contribution or a help that would definitely encourage MROs to come to this part of the of India is skill. Today there is a severe shortage of skilled manpower. We are just able to take care of our existing capacity. The growth that we are, very soon we will be incapacitated because we are not creating the kind of skill which is required. And this industry does not require high education. It requires skill. And skill development typically is two-step process, right? You know, it is bringing the factory to the classroom and the classroom to the shop floor. The factory to the classroom, that is creating courses which are which are required for the industry is already done. Because it's a highly regulated industry, that piece has already been done. What we need to create is classrooms to create that kind of a throughput of skilled manpower, and this state can provide that and provide that in big numbers. And as I said, we just not need to take care of India growth, but we need to take care of the regional and the international growth as well from a skill. This is again one more reason why we need to be in Odisha on the eastern side. Till now, when I say 30% of our revenue is dollar denominated, we have focused from Cochin on to the Middle East. We have not looked at airlines operating in the Far East. Now that's almost 900 going and another 1100, 1200 getting added. So it's a huge market which can be serviced. And this market again, because of either skill or scale or because it does not have resources, would need our support from a MRO standpoint. So Odisha will have a big role to play out here in terms of servicing the Far Eastern side of the world. This is just one report from one of the OEMs which talks about what is the shortage of skilling that is expected in this industry. Huge gap. We have not really woken up to the reality out here, and this will come and bite us big time in case we don't correct the situation very soon. Now these are various things which is required. Unless there is a wealth creation, the job creation doesn't happen. To create wealth, we need to have ease of business. Now ease of business, the usual thing, having land for free or concessional rate, hangars, all those are required. But more importantly, the ecosystem is required for MRO to do well. The aircraft, when it comes to our hangar, it comes for 12 days. Within 2 days, you have to identify what is short in that and then import parts. In case our warehousing facility is not good, our customs are not working 24/7, then there is a challenge on turnaround time of the aircraft. This is a very important thing, not just hangars and land space, but also the ecosystem, the customs, the warehousing, which needs to be coming in place to support the. This is, I guess, the last slide, ma'am. So with that, I will.
Thank you.
Any questions I can take from the.
Thank you so much. We understand you have come all the way and given your time and passion. So we are very thankful to you. Now, just because we have paucity of time, if all the members excuse me for not being very democratic, maybe 1 minute each if you want to say something which you thought you have not said, maybe from that corner, one this side, one that side, very quickly. Just 1 minute, huh? We will not take more.
Maybe I can start, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Thank
Just
you.
1 minute if you want to say something which you
Thank you.
have missed. Yeah.
I think taking the clue from what the speaker has mentioned on the MROs, same approach to be adopted for all types of logistics infrastructure, what you are talking about, how industry should come forward to establish these centers for the benefit of the centers and the society. And similarly, the academic institutions should encourage industry to set up labs in those institutions so that as they study and they come out of those institutions, they will be hands-on in the technologies and the other requirements of the logistics sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thakur here, this end. Would you like to say something? Add 1 minute? Okay. He has giveaway. Yeah, please.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yeah, please.
A small suggestion, it's basically suggestion. We have also heard in the earlier session the way the volume of the state is growing. If I take the one example of the mining and the steel, in case we are going to make it to say 100 million ton, for every ton of steel, it's going to 4 times the volume that we are going to handle. So that is the kind of challenges for the logistics areas you have to gear up to. So while mentioning that, I'll also like to tell you with regard to the industrial park. If you look at in Odisha, probably we have few, you can count it. We have the plastic, textile, multi-product at Gopalpur. So besides that, we don't have those sizable industrial park which can attract the investment. So I believe this is one of the enabler Odisha government may also look at it to create few more of such kind of scale of industrial park. This suggestion for the Odisha government to look at it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll come back to you and take some of the suggestions. Yes, Mr. Ajay Kumar.
Just one thing, where ICDs are there and multimodal logistic parks are there, we can consider to co-locate air freight stations there itself, so that cost of logistics can go down and requirement of airport land is not there, which is very much limited. So this can be a game changer for air cargo industry in cost cutting also.
Thank you.
Thank
Then it is a bonded cargo which comes to the airport.
Yeah, ma'am, it is bonded cargo which comes to airport, and it can be in both in domestic as well as international sector. Both can be benefited from this thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi.
Thank you, ma'am. As far as the optimization of containerized cargo from Odisha is concerned, we are already into the business of iron and steel, HR coil, CR coil, slab, TMT bars, aluminum, fertilizers, chemicals, and everything. So whatever could be contemplated can be sent through containers only. And we are also into EXIM and domestic market. We have owned 51,000 container corporation owned containers for our domestic circuit, and we are having more than 390 rigs, to be very specific, 392 as on date, railway rigs, and we have a fleet of more than 200 LNG truck, which is green energy compliant. So we have enough capacity to expand our horizons in Odisha, and we are capable to meet out the demand of the industry whatsoever is in Odisha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Datta.
Madam,
Just to add to Mr. Ajay Kumar Saab statement, Container Corporation is also into air cargo with its subsidiary called Concord Air Limited, CAL. So we can always join hands wherever.
That's a good news. Please, Mr. Datta.
Madam, Odisha can become it's a global port, and they can have a direct connection with Singapore, Shanghai, Dubai to reduce dependency on transportation via Colombo or Singapore. And collaboration with major shipping lines and logistics players can create a robust feeder network. Madam, I've got only 3 points and I'm naming the points. One is special economic zones and port-based industrial clusters development. One is strategic trade agreement and regional collaboration, which we have already started with Singapore, and you can also with other Asian countries. An integrated digital logistics platform and skill development. These four can take you to that level where this can become the logistics hub and the ports can become a global player. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Though we had been delayed in the first session, we have curtailed something. I am sorry for the curtailing some of the discussions which you would have gone through, but I'm sure most of us have been able to communicate what we want to communicate, but certainly this is not the one event and we'll close everything. Certainly we will be in touch, and many of our stakeholders, maybe as the panelists leave, you can also interact with them, and that network would be there. We'll come back. Once again, thank you everyone, and thanks to the audience who have been there since 2:30. I think from my bottom of my heart, I again thank you all for being a very good audience. I'm skipping this question answer session, but certainly you can, after this session, we are here for some more time. Please come to us, and if you have any burning questions which you have not got the chance to ask, you can very well ask after this meeting. Thank you so much. I'll request the anchor to felicitate the panelists. Thank you.
थैंक यू सो मच मैम, थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन। सभी से निवेदन करना चाहूंगी और कुछ समय हमारे साथ बने रहे। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि हम सब देवभूमि में हैं ओडिशा को देवभूमि के रूप से जाना जाता है। हमारी जो ये राज्य है, हमारा जो ये संस्कृति है, कला, परंपरा, वाणिज्य, खेती, सभी के लिए जाना जाता है। हमारे जो अतिथि होते हैं हमारे लिए वो देव स्वरूप होते हैं। इसलिए धन्यवाद स्वरूप पूरे विभाग की तरफ से मंच पे उपस्थित सभी अतिथियों को संबोधित करना चाहते हैं। मैं अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी हमारे उच्च पदाधिकारियों को वो मोमेंटो प्रदान कर हमारे मंच पे उपस्थित अतिथियों का संबोधित करें। प्लीज जोरदार तालियां थोड़ी सबसे निवेदन करना चाहूंगी। फिर से सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करना चाहेंगे। अपना बहुमूल्य समय देकर आज की इस सभा को सफलतापूर्वक संपूर्ण कराने के लिए, अपने सहयोग के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। इस सभा में उपस्थित सभी दर्शक, सभी उच्च पदाधिकारी, सभी से निवेदन है कि सामने आ जाए। मैं हमारी टीम से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी एंड सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, एक बार जोरदार तालियां होनी चाहिए उषा मैम के लिए, बिकॉज उनकी वजह से ही ये पूरा कार्यक्रम इतनी अच्छी तरह से संपूर्ण हो पाया है। उनको संबोधित करेंगे हमारे पूरे टीम मेंबर, संबोधित करेंगे उन्हें। और दे ऑलरेडी गिव इट, ओके। लेकिन सच में ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही सौभाग्य की बात है। सो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद फिर से सभी का।